Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. I'm Owen Hillman alongside my awesome co-host Grant Hillman, returning back after a week hiatus. The combine was spectacular. There's been a crazy NHL trade deadline today, and there's been a lot of news going on, but we also have a special guest today, introducing from Falcons SI, the Falcoholic contributor Tre'Shon Diaz. How are you doing, Tre'Shon?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here and ready to get into all of the madness that is starting to take place here in the off season. So we finally got stuff to talk about. It's great when the news gets rolling out.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. I love that Falcons flag behind you, and I love that little portrait
Yeah,
on the right side too.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's a nice pennant there. Was able to snag that off eBay. It was like $10. So
Hell yeah,
you can
man.
always
Super
find a deal
sick.
out there.
100%. But yeah, man, let's get into it. We were at the NFL Combine just took place last week. We had a couple measurements for some guys, but just overall in the draft, what are some players that stand out to you the most as targets for the Falcons in the NFL draft?
Yeah. So with Ian Cunningham, it being his first year, it's kind of hard to get a read on kind of what he's going to really be looking for. We've heard him talk about, belief in building through the draft, and he really wants to build up the trenches. So, going into this first one, really am doing kind of like a needs focused approach before really trying to, get inside of his mind and think about what he's really wanting to do. So, that kind of made it really easy for me focusing on these wide receivers and looking at some of these O linemen. Skylar Bell is somebody that really stood out to me. When you look at his metrics in terms of his athletic profile, this isn't somebody that you typically see fall to the third or fourth round. But the consensus seems to be that he's going to be there. And if that is the case, I think this is somebody that you could really, get a lot out of for that price point. A third round pick for a 6 footer that runs a 4.4. That's a yak monster. The biggest questions about him were probably, there would be competition. Was at UConn. He was a Nebraska transfer. He did have some drop struggles earlier in his career. But he really curbed the drop issues in this final year, and I think he set himself up nicely for this draft. I think he's going to honestly, I don't really see him falling out of the third round, so I'm hoping he's there at that pick. He's somebody that I think could really help this wide receiving group.
100%. Skylar Bell would be great. But you have mentioned on your X account about Cincinnati linebacker Jake Golday, us targeting with
Yeah.
that 45th pick. What stands out to you the most about him and his play and how it worked with the Falcons?
Yeah, when with Golday, it really comes down to coverage ability and alignment versatility. When Divine Diablo went down, the biggest issue wasn't the linebacker play against the run. It wasn't great, but the most notable issue was the fact that they didn't have anybody that could cover. And in that Jeff Ulbrich defense, you are on an island in the middle of that field when you get into your nickel sets and when you get into your dimes. There's a lot that's asked of you. And they just didn't have anybody else in the room that can do it. And that includes Caden Ellis. Coverage is not his game. He's a chess piece. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if we were to lose Caden Ellis, how are you able to replace him with somebody who still has alignment versatility, but is an upgrade in him over coverage? Insert Jake Golday. This is somebody who was playing, I think he had the most snaps in the slot out of all the linebackers in this class. We saw him play on the edge. We saw him play in the middle. He really had a good breakout year this year, and he's got the metrics you want to see. He's about the same size as Divine Diablo. He's going to be around 6'4", 240. I've kind of told people, I'm like, this might not sound like the best comp or the best idea, but like think Troy Anderson, but with a little bit more experience at playing the linebacker position. And this is somebody that, again, you're talking about being able to get at 48 with that athletic profile, not extremely common. So, this is somebody that, again, I think Jeff Ulbrich would be able to work his magic with, really refine as a player. When Divine Diablo came over, there were some questions about, this guy's really been a hybrid player. He was a safety before. Is he going to be able to grasp the nuances of the position and fit into this role? It was a seamless fit. And I think Ulbrich's going to be able to find a spot for someone like Golday here.
Man, that Troy Anderson comp is really good because I still believe in Troy Anderson as a player despite all those injuries. It's really disappointing for
Yeah.
him.
And he will be back. He will be back. His contract told, which is a very rare situation. So, maybe they aren't as worried about linebacker, but given the injury history, I hope they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair.
for sure.
Um, as we know from Ian Cunningham, as he said before, he loves his draft picks.
Yeah.
Looking into this year, obviously draft capital is not something that we're very high on right
Mm.
now. But do you see any pieces on Atlanta that you could see us trading away for more capital? For example, Jesse Bates is somebody I've heard that name getting thrown around a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Bates is somebody that kind of feels like a finishing piece for I would say, a legitimate contender, somebody who's really one player away, a Jesse Bates away. So I definitely think that there could be a market for Bates. He's going into the final year of his deal. So that makes a lot of sense to me. If you're the Falcons, obviously it's hard to let go of players like that, right? Fan favorite, produces, but it makes sense when you're kind of in this awkward phase where you're not really in a rebuild yet, but you're also not a contender either. Being in limbo, that's kind of been the issue with the Falcons under the Fontenot regime, these past like 5 years, is they've never been able to break out of that 7-8 win kind of cycle. So he's somebody that I could see. And as long as Kyle Pitts is on the tag until a deal is reached, he's another person that I could see them still exploring options. It is the
Hmm.
non-exclusive franchise tag, so he can technically get offers from other teams. Those other teams would have to give up 2 first-round picks if they wanted Kyle Pitts. I don't think anybody wants Kyle Pitts that
Yeah, I agree with
badly,
you on that.
but we could still see a tag and trade scenario come out of that.
Yeah, I've actually seen apparently Falcons are picking up trade calls about Kyle Pitts. I don't really think that might go anywhere, especially with Stefanski loving his tight ends, loving the 13
Yeah.
personnel, all that. I would assume that Stefanski's going to want to get at least a year out of Pitts. And as you know, Falcons are spread a little thin when it comes to depth this year, whether it's edge, whether it's O line, whether it's receivers, whether it's running backs. It seems like, we're just kind of spread thin everywhere. But what do you think? What are the position groups you think that we specifically are going to address the most this offseason, whether it's draft or free agency?
Yeah, right now, I think wide receiver room is definitely the one you can point to based on the release of Kadero Hodge, Darnell Mooney. Ray was out mid-season, so that room really, really needs, I think, a lot of work put into it. So that's I think the easiest one to highlight. Um, Depending on how it plays out, the linebacker room for me is going to be behind that, because if you lose Caden Ellis, then it's just Divine Diablo, JD Bertrand, and then Ronnie Harrison's technically not signed, so he would be somebody that you have to bring back as a free agent acquisition. So you're hitting the offseason with just Divine Diablo and Bertrand under contract. They do have some interesting guys on the practice squad that are kind of some projects for Ulbrich. But nobody that you feel like you have confidence in. So the wide receiver room, the linebacker room, those would be the two big ones for me.
Yeah, those
Definitely.
would be those would be big to get. Do you see potentially any wide receiver targets in free agency? Like, how do you see the Falcons addressing either of these holes through free agency?
Yeah. This isn't really a great wide receiver market.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough because it feels like there's going to be a lot of overpays. And so for this year, I really think I would see them going more the Jalen Naylor, the Nick Westbrook, Ikain route. Those are kind
Hmm.
of the two guys that I could see, having good fits here. You feel comfortable about them being, wide receiver threes, could give you some potential wide receiver two upside. I think they would fit into the scheme nicely. Obviously it's not even Romeo Dobbs kind of a name, which I think
Right.
that's like kind of, I think the peak of like what they would be able to get into. But I'm not even sure what his market's going to look like. I think that he's somebody that would probably be able to take advantage of this down free agent class and get a bigger payday than he would in other years. So the wide receiver market's going to be really tricky.
Absolutely. We still have at least one elite wide receiver in Drake London. He is set to
Right.
be a free agent in 2027. What do you see a Drake London extension looking like?
Market reset or as close as possible. Yeah, DK Metcalf kind of ruined everything for everybody last
He really
offseason.
did.
Um, him getting 33 million really just kind of set the tone, because he's not, he's just not a tier one wide receiver. And
No,
so
never has been.
once you give out
Happy with the
that
Steelers.
deal, kind of, yeah, it just destroys everything. And, agents, they're so hyper focused and they're always planning and forecasting years ahead. They see the cap increase, they're like, they're going to push for that because, hey, you know, in a year from now, 2 years from now, someone else is going to come along and reset it. Someone else is going to, you know, give out that next big contract. So it's better to just bite the bullet now and get it over with. And I kind of agree. The Falcons aren't really in a position where they can't, you know, where they can negotiate with London, take a lower deal. Drake London knows he's the only viable receiver
Oh yeah.
on this team, so he's kind of like, yeah, you know, it's all on you guys at this point if you're going to make the move, and I expect them to pay up.
Absolutely. It kind of reminds me of when Christian Kirk got signed with the Jaguars in 2022, and it kind of like set a chain reaction where Tyreek was traded to Miami, Devontae got traded to the Raiders. It's just like one bad contract can really mess up the entire market for
Yeah.
that team. But speaking about the players passing to him, how do you think the Falcons approach the quarterback room? Do they get a legit starter on the market, a journeyman to potentially compete with Penix, or like just a backup spot starter that will fill in for Penix if he misses a couple games?
Yeah. I think they're going to make that room as competitive as possible. And it's, you know, it is a very interesting quarterback market right now. You know, we have two veterans out there, in Murray and Tagovailoa, that, you know, you just don't really see guys hitting the market like that when you know there's going to be a massive price reduction too. Like these guys are in a position where they're not going to get anything close to the contracts they were just on. Geno Smith, another good example of a vet out there.
Hmm.
And so I do think like one of those three names has a very realistic odd of getting here. And honestly, I think that's what's best for the team. And I think that's what's best for Penix as well. This is a competitive game. The environment should be as competitive as possible, you know, throughout, you know, the entire year, from summer camp workouts all the way till the end of the season. The reality is that this, you know, Michael Penix is not this new regime's guy. And that doesn't mean that Penix can't work, or anything like that, or that they're, you know, going to go out of their way to make sure he never sees the field. It just means that, you know, it's their prerogative to make sure that they get the best look possible and they put the best possible team out there. There's no allegiances, or anything like that. And honestly, it can be a really good thing when you're going through this transitional period as a franchise to have people that are unbiased and have a little bit more of a clear head, and aren't talking themselves into like, all right, well, you know, we took this guy at 8 when we paid Kirk Cousins $180 million. We have to make this work. We can't not make this work. You know, you remove that emotion from the equation, and I think it's going to set the team up really well, and create the best possible environment that produces, you know, the best quarterback for this team in the next season.
And the fact that it
Definitely.
was an old regime too. Like it was Terry Fonson
Yeah.
who made that pick, not the new regime with Ian Cunningham and Kevin Stefanski.
Right. Another thing that I am a little optimistic about is Ian Cunningham's was part of that team in Chicago that made that huge trade and ended up, you know, sending Justin Fields out and bringing Caleb
Yeah.
Williams in. It was almost seamless, the transition. So knowing that we have a guy who has experience, you know, giving up on a first round quarterback, it does make me a lot more optimistic.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good situation to bring up too, because it also showed that Pauls and Ian, they didn't go out of their way to not give Fields a chance either. You
Right.
know, they did right by him. They gave him that season to kind of see if they could make things work, and it just wasn't there. And so then they made the move to move on. And I would expect Ian to take a very similar approach here.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Is there anybody in the free agency market that you're worried is overvalued, inflated, anything like that? Any guys that you probably wouldn't
Like buyers
you'd
beware.
avoid if you're a GM right now?
Buyer beware. Man, I, you know, it's hard because it feels like one of those weird off seasons where everyone's kind of like, oh, like no one's really going to get paid except for like Alec Pierce. Like that's the one
Right.
name right here.
Or
Like
AJ
everybody's like
Brown.
Alec Pierce is going to get the bag.
Yeah.
Pretty sure
Um,
every team
and
has been rumored to get him.
yeah, and so, you know, I don't really know if there's anybody that screams like buyer beware to me. I think there's a couple of guys that maybe aren't worth the risk, even if it's on the lower end.
Hmm.
You know, Quay Walker today is kind of like, it's like prime example of why the Packers are kind of like, yeah, we're just done with this, man. Like, you
Yeah.
know, he got a farewell message posted and then he got hacked. I'm
Already.
like, oh
That's
man, what a nice
hilarious.
hacker. Like I've never seen a hacker just go out there and put a
Right.
heartfelt message out there for you before, you
Yeah.
know, and it's
I'm
just
sure
kind
that
of like,
hacker created that post on Canva. got everything ready just to upload it. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
like that is a really like that's an empathetic hacker just getting on there. So yeah, I just that's probably like when you have guys coming in with stuff like that already, like yeah, I'm like maybe we don't need to worry about Quay Walker. But yeah, not too many I don't think we'll see as many, big payouts this off season as maybe we have before.
I gotcha. And how important do you feel like it is to address like the defensive line or even the cornerback room?
Yeah, yeah. So, one of the other guys that stood out to me, prospect wise at the combine was Julian Neal out of Arkansas. He is, I think he's a really fun prospect. I think he's like ideal CB2, especially like if that's where you get to start him off with his career playing across from Terrell.
Mhm.
He's somebody that I would like a lot. It's really interesting because, D'Alford's going to be a free agent. And unfortunately, Billy Bowman had the Achilles injury, so Nickel is in a really weird spot right now.
Definitely.
You want to bring, I think, Alford back, but you still need some security because you don't really know when Bowman's going to return, and then
We don't
you're
know
going
how
to
he's going to
have
be when he
to,
returns.
yeah, that's the other side of it, right? Is like his athletic profile, he's already an undersized guy, right? And so, he's somebody that he can't really afford to lose the plus athleticism that he had. And it could push him back to being more of a safety like he was in college, which
Hmm.
isn't like an issue because, hey, earlier we're talking about moving on from Bates and stuff like that. And I do think that was part of the plan when they got Bowman was his versatility. But it's definitely changed the equation. And so I think, the defensive back, the secondary, is going to need to have, a couple of pieces injected into it to keep things going.
Absolutely. Well, Tre'Shon, it was great hearing from you, man. I appreciate you being on the podcast with us. And yeah, it's great hearing from you.
Yeah,
I'll
man.
make
Thank you
sure
for
to give
joining
you a
us.
shout out.
Yeah,
Really good.
appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. See ya.
Yeah, have a good one.
Sorry, I don't know it.
There it is.
Alrighty. Well, that was a really cool interview.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude.
But now we get into their first mock draft of the season, post combine too. It's going to be a very interesting one. Uh, I think it was very insightful stuff from Tre'Shon. Definitely feeling like we got a lot of excitement over the second round pick.
Hmm.
Definitely wish we would have gotten something with the 13th pick, although the Rams got that one now.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm in the end, I'm really happy with Xavier Watts at the very least. I mean, he's so much more than we could ask for at that pick. But yeah, I mean, definitely that one definitely still stinks, especially looking at this draft class and seeing how many edge rushers there are, man. It is
Yeah,
insane. This is
yeah.
such a stacked edge class.
And with the James Pierce situation, you could argue that like we should definitely like try to address at least we should try to at least get an edge rusher, which is crazy to
I
think
mean,
about.
if we hadn't have drafted JPJ at edge and we still needed somebody at edge, there is five guys you could argue are going first round and are easily first round talent.
Yeah, there were a couple of guys in like the second round that I would have that was definitely looking at too. I thought that originally the Falcons were going to pick like Malachi Starks from Georgia or something like that. That would have been a very good addition to have on the team,
Hmm.
just as like that robber free safety type. Although he's more like a Jesse Bates versus, yeah, he's more like a Xavier Watts type actually, which would have been
Yeah,
perfect to have. But again, Xavier Watts is a great part of that deal. But
definitely.
let's get into this mock draft, dude.
Oh
Let's
yeah.
roll up the old PFF. Let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Bingo. So let me just get this in here. Yep. So obviously, you and I are going to alternate between picks. Uh, you get the first pick, I get the second pick, and we go on and on until the 32nd pick. And then at the end, I think you and I can probably like discuss maybe like we could probably do like a Falcons PFF draft.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah. So let's do
All
it.
right. Well, if I'm starting with the first pick, I think this one is going to be a little bit of a nail biter, to be honest with you. Um, the Raiders really need to address the running back room. I think Gentry's a bust. I'm going Jeremiah Love. Okay. Go ahead and put Mendoza.
I've heard Clint Kubiak said that he needs another running back on the roster. I'm like, why? Why? Genti
I
is your
mean,
deep guy.
they could go get another running back, maybe
Yeah, I'd
veteran
imagine.
talent, but I don't really feel like that's where their weaknesses land. But
No.
yeah, obviously Mendoza, which side note, Smith is reportedly going to be cut if he does not find a trade. And I'm actually a little bit surprised by that. It sounds dumb, but uh, I'm a little bit surprised the Raiders decided not to keep a veteran around in the quarterback room like Geno Smith, just to kind of give Mendoza a guy to fall back on because I don't know, man. Yes, he's Heisman. Yes, he won Indiana the Natty, their first Natty ever, and all this stuff. But I don't know, man. You really can't tell at the end of the day how week one's gonna go. But regardless, I'm going Mendoza at one.
Yeah, that definitely tracks. I mean, he's probably been the first overall pick since he won the Natty and won the Heisman at
Yeah,
Indiana. It I was just saying, I mean, I get why the Raiders are cutting Geno Smith, but you would like to have a sort of a veteran presence to mentor Mendoza. So that's
yeah.
why I feel like the Raiders are still going to try going after a veteran QB in free agency anyway. But then
I
again,
would say
though, like,
someone like Carson Wentz, but apparently the Jets are keen on him.
yeah, Frank
Which,
Reich says he's my guy, which is really
speaking of
funny.
Jets, we've got them picked too. So
Yup. Let's get this on. I think it's just some Wi-Fi over here. But yeah, now that Mendoza's off the board, let me see if I can change this. This could really go either way. This would really go a bunch of ways for the New York Jets. I think that they could get so many players with this, but I'm gonna go with Ruben Bain from Miami.
interesting. You're going Ruben Bain as the number one edge in this class.
Yeah, I think Ruben Bain is really sick. I know that he has the issues with his short arms, but the dude
Hmm.
is just he's a baller. He's got so much in his tool belt in terms of like edge rush moves. And I think that he's gonna be a stud regardless of those short arms.
Oh yeah,
I don't I've heard people compare him to Aaron Donald, and I think that's a decent comparison to make with him. You really don't Aaron Donald is one of those guys where like you don't try to compare anybody else to him, but
yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
decent comp for Ruben Payne. He's just like completely made of steel, and he's just got such a great tool belt to use for him. So I think the Jets go with Ruben Payne. Now on to pick three.
Well, on to pick three, the Arizona Cardinals. What do they not need at this point?
Yeah.
You've got a young wide receiver and a good tight end. You need a running back. You need a quarterback. You need everything. Specifically, though, I think if you're the Cardinals and you're at this point where you need anything and edge has been an issue, you draft essentially best player available because you need them all. And with three, I'm taking David Bailey from Texas Tech as my
Yeah.
edge number two in the draft this year.
That totally makes sense. The Cardinals, like if they get Bailey alongside Josh Sweat was a little bit of a letdown last year, even though he was pretty good.
Hmm.
But getting David Bailey alongside him could be really solid for this Cardinals team. They just need like some interior rushing, but that's a
Definitely.
that's a decent way to go with things. I guess, and that means with Titans needing probably somebody to work on this Robert Saleh defense, I'm gonna decide to go. Let's go Arvil Reese here, actually. I think the Titans go with
I
Arvil
like that.
Reese
I
just
like
as
that.
a best person available kind of thing. He's a linebacker, but he also has versatility over there. He's kind of got raw potential with him, but I could
Hmm.
definitely see Robert Saleh coaching him up to being a good player, and that'd be
Definitely.
perfect.
Um, Next up is the Giants.
Yep.
This one might be, I don't know. I've seen people kind of pick him anywhere around the first round. But with the Giants, with the release of Okiriki, that linebacker room really seems to be lacking. I have them taking Sonny Styles out of Ohio State.
Dude, he had an insane combine.
Yeah.
He had an incredible. It was to the point where like I expected like sort of Facebook AI post about him being like after the NFL Combine, being like, Sonny Styles saves a child from
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
running
talking
into a
about.
bus with just his body,
Wait till
and
you
the
hear what
bus
Sonny Styles
stops at
says
full
about
momentum.
LGBTQ players. It's like those ones. And like the photo is like, yeah, him like carrying a baby out of a burning building. They're ridiculous, dude. I love those Facebook posts.
And the
They're
post looks nothing
ridiculous.
like Sonny Styles.
Yeah, literally. Dude, I get all the Georgia ones and it's like Kirby Smart said this about shootings and blah 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 blah. And it's like just the most ridiculous like Kirby Smart AI photo ever. I'm like, dude, I promise you he did not say anything. I promise you Gunnar Stockton didn't say I promise he doesn't have an opinion about this. But whatever. Um yeah, so we've got Sonny Styles at 5 for the Giants.
Yep. And now it's 6 for the Browns. I don't know why in the world it says the Giants need wide receiver, by the way. I don't get that. I mean, Wandale's not a great, I don't think he's a great player, and he's going to be a free agent this
I was
season.
gonna say I think they're gonna let Wandale walk.
They're definitely going to let Wandale walk, but I'd imagine them probably getting a veteran to go alongside Malik Neighbors too, because you
Yeah.
have him. But at 6,
Yeah.
I think the Browns are going to look at O-line, O-line, O-line,
Yep.
dude. Like the
I
Browns are
agree with you on this one.
desperately trying. The Browns desperately need to get offensive linemen. They did a good job in acquiring Titus Howard, and Howard has some positional flexibility. But you know who else has positional flexibility? Francis Mauigoa. Francis Mauigoa, he's had a bit of shorter arms, so I could definitely see him working out as a guard, but he also has like the base and strength to be a good tackle anyway. Like it's
Yeah.
kind of like a Will Campbell situation with him. Will Campbell's kind of gotten flack for the Super Bowl for how bad he did
Right.
against Seattle, but he had some good stretches to tackle too. So
Definitely. He's a rookie. I mean, come on. The
yeah,
biggest
he's a
stage of
rookie.
your career, rookie
Mhm.
year, like, yeah, give the kid a break. Interesting. I did also have the Browns selecting at O-line, but I had a different guy. But on to 7, got the Commanders, Washington Commanders. Oh, man, I really feel bad for this Washington team. Just just in a bad place, but I'm going with Caleb Downs at safety from Ohio State.
Yeah, not a bad idea. I was thinking about getting Downs for Tennessee too, because Downs is like such a great all-around player. He's probably my
Yeah.
second player on my big board. He was originally, but unfortunately, like news came out about him potentially like having meniscus issues, and that could
Yeah.
translate to full-blown torn ACL issues. And I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
is true.
That is a bit concerning with the Titans.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to drop him out of the top 10 by any means,
Yeah.
but definitely could warn the Titans away from a 4 overall pick, especially when you just essentially need everybody. I mean,
Oh, say
there's just
that
a
kind of
weakness.
news. You hear that kind of news, and Downs ends up going like ninth to the Chiefs, and you're
Right.
just
Oh
like,
my God.
what?
Don't even get me
Come on, man.
started,
Come
dude.
on. Yeah, we're gonna get to that point, or we're gonna get to that point in a little bit,
Yeah.
just as long as this loads. But on to the Saints. Again, I don't know why it says they kind of are a little thin at wide receiver alongside Chris Olave. I mean, I just don't really see them drafting a wide receiver. I don't really get appeal of top 10 wide receivers anyway. That's kind of a hot take, but like I just don't see anyone in this draft really being a top 10 pick for me as a wide receiver,
Fair, dude.
outside of maybe like somebody for the Chiefs if they want to overdraft. But the
Yeah.
Saints, I think they're going to really finish this offensive line out. And I think they
Interesting.
go after Spencer Fano
You're
in this
going
draft.
fan? No?
I'm actually going to go Fano, yeah.
Interesting. That is
Mhm.
very interesting. I had them going somewhere else. I had them addressing that offense,
Totally
specifically a
fair.
running back. But I guess at this point, I didn't realize how far behind this thing is
Yeah,
in
not gonna lie.
PFF.
I think it might be a good idea to just stop screen sharing, just put it on the document when we get there.
Yeah, I got you. No worries then.
Yep.
Well, right now we're at the Chiefs at 9, which if you were to
Yeah.
tell me that the Bengals had a worse pick than the Chiefs last year, I would have been so confused.
Yeah.
But with the Chiefs at 9, I actually have them taking a wide receiver. I haven't, I take it back. That's how I had them taking, but the fact that Jeremiah Love is still on the board, I have them taking Jeremiah Love. I don't think they're gonna hesitate.
Oh, the Chiefs?
Yeah.
That's a decent pick for them, especially with Eric Bieniemy's experience with running backs.
Right.
That's
And at this
definitely,
point, you draft the best available when you need both.
yeah. They really do need wide receivers.
Yeah.
They really do need wide receivers, but Jeremiah Love also you can help with the running game there with a good
I
running back,
mean,
help a good
let's be
quarterback.
real, they'd probably trade down realistically, but
Yeah.
we're not talking about that right now.
But yeah, for the Bengals, I'm actually going to agree with your decision here. Um, I think the Bengals do take a member of the secondary because they desperately need it. I think Dax Hill is pretty good for them last season, but yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm actually gonna go Mansour Delane, just like you did. I think Mansour Delane is a really cool player. He was absolutely insane with LSU. I think they only had like there wasn't a single team that scored a touchdown off of a throw from Mansour Delane, is what I remember. I don't want to completely misguide that, but Mansour Delane was a really good cornerback at LSU and a really good system. And the Bengals just need secondary help desperately. They also need other things in the defense, but Mansour Delane would be really good for them.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Moving on to our next pick, we've got the Dolphins. And at this point, the Dolphins are also in the position of what do you not need? But I do have them beefing up the O-line.
I think Francis Mauigoa, by the way, has already taken the
Yes, yes,
Browns.
yes, 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 yes. I've got you. I actually have them taking Monroe Freeling as the next available offensive
Really?
tackle. Yes.
Wow. That's wild. That's a he's definitely getting some first round t tape, but what's your reasoning?
Man, I've been looking around and a lot of guys are having him mocked first round. A lot of them have them mocked as uh OT number two, OT number three in the draft. I was honestly thinking about even Caden Proctor, but or even Caleb Lomu, but it really seems like Monroe Freeling has gotten a lot more talks over the last few weeks.
Gotcha. Now onto the Cowboys. This is a pretty interesting pick they have at 12. They really did beef up the defensive line with Quinnen Williams, and the only issues for me are like secondary and edge. And
Yeah.
go figure, right? The team that trades away Micah Parsons all of a sudden needs edge rushers. But with David Bailey, Bain, and a lot of other and Arvo Reese, although he's more of a linebacker, with all of them off the board, I think that they probably go after one of the top corners, and Jermon McCoy is going to be my pick. You actually nailed it right on the head. I think Jermon
Yeah.
McCoy is the pick here for the Cowboys.
I had Jermon McCoy there. I really feel like I was honestly thinking about um I was thinking about maybe with them going for sorry, give me a second. I'm completely blanking right now. I was thinking of them beefing up the interior D line, but I really just feel like at this point they have so much they need to address, especially at corner and secondary. So Jermon McCoy definitely is fair. Regarding the Rams, I think that they're going to need to work on the O line more than anything. I've seen people talk about them getting receivers, and I'm just like, this Los Angeles team is not going to go for a receiver. At this point, they don't need to worry about a corner anymore. I have them going for, and I apologize because I'm never going to be able to pronounce his name, but Oliva Vega Ione from Penn State at O line.
That's better than I could have done. So Vega Ione from Penn State is the pick there for the Rams. That would pretty much finish the Rams offensive line. And that's a
Yes.
decent pick with Rob Havenstein retiring too. The
Yes,
Rams definitely
exactly.
need at least another guy over there. And well, they have the 13th overall pick to go along with it. That's just great for them. I wonder who gave that pick to them. Um, but at 14, this is where I think the first receiver goes for the Ravens. And I think that they're going to go after Carnell Tate in this draft.
hmm
They have Zay Flowers already, but he's more or less just like a rack kind of guy,
Yeah,
and he's
I
not a.
agree.
I don't think he's really like a super good number one receiver.
Agree
So I
with you.
think that they go after. I would think that maybe Makai Lemon is the play here, but Makai Lemon's like combine interviews might have scared some teams off, and I imagine the Ravens are probably one of those teams with Steve Bisciotti and Jesse Minter over there
Yes.
being new coach. So I imagine
Yeah.
that Carnell Tate, especially with his size, he's a guy that I watched a bit this past year. He's got like Drake London comparables with how good he is at using his size.
Could totally see that. Um, for 15, we've got the Buccaneers. I've seen a lot of talks about the Buccaneers needing tight end depth. And I obviously am aware with the current tight end scope, specifically Kenyon Sadiq, but I'm just not really comfortable with taking a tight end in the first round, to be honest with you. Just especially this early.
Yeah,
I don't know why
15
people are
seems a bit.
saying it. I'm not comfortable with taking a tight end first round. They very rarely pay for themselves in value because even when you get a guy like Brock Bowers who has that elite season all of a sudden, I don't think those elite seasons are very consistent for tight ends, and I just don't think they're at the value of a first round pick that often.
Yeah.
So I think the Buccaneers are going to attack edge here, and I have them taking Keldrick Falk, although I do believe there might be some more edge talent on the board still.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that they could go with this pick. Like I've seen
Yes.
Akeem Mesidor get some draft buzz, maybe not
Yes.
enough of it personally, just because he's
Yeah.
25 years old. But Keldrick Falk, he's a guy that definitely has some raw potential. I think that he didn't show as much pass rushing chops as other guys did in the top parts of the draft, but Falk is going to be, if Falk has the right coaching, he'll be a good edge rusher for sure. Now onto the New York Jets, who got the Colts pick at 16 for trading away Sauce Gardner. I don't think they draft Sauce Gardner's replacement, but I do think that. Actually, hold on a sec. Who they have left at corner? There's Delane, there's McCoy, and there's Terrell. I think that they actually do end up drafting his replacement. I think they go after Avion Terrell here with this pick
Avion
because
Terrell. Very good pick.
Aaron Glenn is a defensive backs coach, and the
Yeah.
Jets have been trying to improve their defense. They got Tavondre Sweat in exchange for Jermaine Johnson, and I
Hmm.
think they go after both defensive dogs over here. And they might try signing a wide receiver in the offseason. I'd imagine them trying to go after maybe Romeo Dobbs with all the money
Right.
that they have. But if you don't have the quarterback of the future, what does it really matter right now,
Agreed.
wide receiver? I think that they go fix the defensive side of the ball to get Aaron Glenn's defensive chops going because we didn't really see them have that great of a defense there. So I do have them passing on Makai Lemon and going after
Hmm.
Avion Terrell.
That's fair. I think Avion Terrell is honestly one of my favorite corners in this class, and could definitely see him going to the Jets, especially with what you said. I mean, they at this point, there's no point in even drafting a wide receiver when you don't even know where you're going to be at quarterback. You have
Mhm.
no idea. Um, However, with pick 17, we've got the Lions. I don't know if you saw, but Taylor Decker has asked for his release from the Detroit Lions. So their
Wow, man.
O-line is back to nowhere. I have them taking Caleb Lomu at offensive tackle and trying to just beef up that line.
Yeah, I think that's that's a no duh choice. They're going after either Lamu or Caden Proctor, in my opinion.
Yes.
And I think Lamu is the better pick. I just was not very impressed with Caden Proctor, what I saw from him. To be fair, I saw Florida State put up probably the best performance I've ever seen Florida State put up against him in that line.
Yeah.
But still, like, I'm just not super impressed with Caden Proctor, especially that high of a pick. Now I have the Vikings pick at 18, and they do need they do need defensive line. They also kind of need defensive back as well and center. This is going to be a very interesting pick for Minnesota to make. And it's
Hmm.
more interesting the fact that like Quezzy's not even there to make the pick. It's just so crazy
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
is
They don't
part of
actually
it.
have a GM for the pick, which is just hilarious to think about.
Mhm. So I think I'm actually gonna go with what you said here. I think I'm gonna go after defensive tackle, but I think instead of him, I think instead of Peter Woods, I think I'm gonna go after Caleb Banks here instead. I think
Oh
Caleb
yeah,
Banks
Caleb
did
Banks
show a lot
definitely,
better tape,
definitely.
especially at the Senior Bowl, which, very big bias since I was at the Senior Bowl, but Caleb Banks was
Yes.
basically unguardable there.
I think I had Banks earlier. I don't remember who I had him going to earlier, but definitely Caleb Banks would be my DT1.
Heck yeah. Well, now you're on to
Definitely.
pick 19.
Pick 19, we've got the Panthers. I really feel like where Panthers need to address right now is honestly mainly defense, specifically edge. Don't really feel like they're getting enough pressure. I see them going for Cassius Howell from Texas A&M, edge rusher. I think there's still a few more guys you could argue could go first round for edge, but Cassius Howell's who I have at 19.
Gotcha. Howell didn't have the greatest combine. I think Howell actually did injure himself during the combine, unfortunately. And but Howell did lead the league in sacks for the SEC and Texas A&M, so he's definitely still got some pass rushing juice. Now
Yeah.
into the Cowboys' second pick. They already addressed their need at cornerback, so I don't think they go after corner here. I think I would have definitely gone edge here if
Hmm.
there's any available and just see the top picks available here. It's just not like a ton to go back from. I think this is probably the place where you see like maybe TJ Parker or even like Akeem Mesidor get picked here for the
Yeah.
Cowboys. I'm just gonna go with Akeem Mesidor here. Yeah, Akeem Mesidor is a lot older of a guy, but he really stood out to me on tape when I saw him. Like he's so athletic back there. You gotta get a flyer on him, and I think that he's worth more than just a second round guy. I've been hearing a lot of people say he's only like a second round talent just because of his age, and like
Yeah. I've seen that
yeah,
too.
that's concerning, but like it's concerning when he turns like 29 or 30.
Yeah.
You could still have some really good edge rush play, and the Cowboys are good enough, I think, to the point where like you could see them if they revitalize the defense, they could go for a playoff spot next year. And
Definitely.
Messidor
Definitely.
is already a decent finished product. So I think that Dallas would be wise to get like maybe aim for age here for defensive line.
Definitely.
That's why Akeem Messidor is my pick.
At 21, we've got the Steelers. I mean, this guy's still on the board. Steelers, honestly, I think they're going to be very offense oriented in this draft, purely because of the fact that they've got a new coach in, and this is something that they have not been able to do over the last 20 years. Not to mention that their defense is already pretty good. But I see them attacking wide receiver, and I just think, why let this guy sit any longer? Mekhi Lemon, bam,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mekhi Lemon, considering the interviews he had, he'd be such a good Steelers receiver to have. Him alongside DK Met. I don't even think Mekhi Lemon's like, I don't think there was any character issues with Mekhi Lemon at all. This has kind of just come out after he
Yeah,
like had the infamous picture where he just looked like a snake. I
yeah,
think that it's a decent, I think that that'd be a great pick for the Steelers though anyway. And they do
agree.
need to get another receiver beside DK Metcalf for whoever their starting quarterback is. I'm surprised you didn't go after Ty Simpson with this pick though, just because of the
No,
memes.
nope, no, no, no. I wanted to joke about it, but I just can't because Pittsburgh might actually do it.
You know what? I've heard some first round draft buzz for Ty Simpson. That is just it's just very
I
bizarre
have
to
too.
me.
Dude, don't get me started. I don't want to talk about it. I want to move on.
Ty Simpson's season has been the equivalent of that horse drawing where like it's really defined the first part of it and then the rest is
Yeah,
basically just a stick figure. Like that's Ty
yeah.
Simpson's season.
Ty Simpson to me is like, you want to say Michael Penix is raw? Ty Simpson is raw. Michael Penix at least is an absolute cannon, but dude, Ty Simpson's footwork is just all over the place. I don't like his pocket presence. I don't
Really
like his
bad.
footwork at all.
It's really bad.
I don't like it at all. I think it's the reason why, like, behind his play, but whatever, man. I don't even want to talk about it, but I'm not putting him in my first round. I've seen so many mock drafts, Owen, of the Rams taking him at whatever pick do we have? Give him 13. I've seen picks of the Rams taking him at 13.
That would be a really bad scenario for the
I know.
Rams. Like
I would like,
you gotta get like a talent. You gotta aim for high end talent there if you're the Rams.
dude, two
You
years
want to get
ago,
guys
pick
that are
13 would have
developed
given
too.
you. Oh my God. Yeah, don't even get me started. But moving on.
On to the Chargers pick. I think this is pretty obvious what they're going to go with. They're going to go with offensive line. There
Yeah.
is, I think Justin Herbert nearly had his body quartered last season due to how bad his offensive line was in front of him. Like that was mostly the sole reason why they lost against New England in the playoffs too. They really have a couple guys that can go with. I think instead of Caden Proctor though, I'm going to go with Blake Miller from Clemson. I
Okay.
think that he's not getting enough draft buzz personally, and I think that that's going to be a decent pick for the Chargers. I just didn't like Caden Proctor's. I just think Caden Proctor's a bit raw for my taste, and I think
Fair.
Blake Miller is a little bit more defined as a pass rusher, as an offensive tackle. Excuse me.
So I don't normally do this. I don't normally lie and go back on my word. But right now, at 23, the Philadelphia Eagles obviously are a phenomenal team, have just about everything they need. And specifically at tight end, Dallas Goedert is expected to leave at the end of the season. I think that the Eagles, especially if they're not guaranteed A.J. Brown returning, are actually going to go after Kenyon Sadiq, tight end, at 23.
Whoa! I
I
just
know.
got some big news. Ryan Kelly from the Vikings just retired.
Whoa.
Yeah, he was a center for the team. So now center is in need for the Vikings.
Wow.
That's
It's all
interesting.
falling apart.
And some part of me like kind of wants to change my pick now that the Vikings no longer have Ryan Kelly in the team, but I don't know. I
Oh
still
my
think they go
gosh.
after the defensive side just because
Yeah,
defensive tackle, the
it
interior pass rush was a disaster last year with Jonathan Allen. they were definitely in over their heads with signing him to a big deal, and I they definitely did a good job of cutting him.
Damn, dude, this team it's falling apart, man.
It really has.
It's crazy how bad that JJ McCarthy pick really was.
Oh my gosh. And they traded up to get him too, which
I
like they
did.
traded mid-round picks to get him, but they still traded up to get him.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's insane. It's actually insane, but
Now on
uh,
to the Browns from
can't
the
concede.
Jaguars. The Browns just addressed offensive line here with Francis Mauigoa. He's going to be a great staple of that offensive line. I think this point they go wide receiver. Um, there could be a number of guys that could go here, but you got to go Jordan Tyson. You got to go
Yeah.
Jordan Tyson at
If
this
he's still
point.
on the board, you're taking him.
Yeah, he's an absolute stud. He actually had the most bench reps out of any wide receiver. And while his form didn't look that great, it's still crazy to me that he could still like bench press. Like he's still so strong as a receiver. And he was definitely more fluid as a receiver too than a guy like Carnell Tate. And I think that Jordan Tyson is definitely warranted to be. I could argue that he's the top wide receiver in the class over Tate and Lemon. But
Fair.
Jordan Tyson definitely belongs in a Cleveland Browns uniform. I can even say he's at 6 or 24, but it's a bargain now that the Browns get him at 24.
Um, the 25, we got the Chicago Bears, and I actually know my guy. I believe we haven't taken him yet,
Nope,
but Peter Woods out of Clemson would be my pick for the Bears. I think they're going to attack defensive tackle. I really think they're just going to end up getting an edge rusher in the free agency market, if not trading up for one. But I would say Peter Woods, defensive tackle.
yeah, Trey Hendrickson if he signs with the Bears. I think maybe the Bears pick. We can't really do trades on this one, but if
Yeah,
the Bears pick was traded, I'd imagine it'd be to the Raiders for Max Crosby. Like I don't think they're going to trade too many first round picks, but I'd imagine the Raiders would have that pick. But the Bears,
agreed.
if they have that pick, I think they're drafting like interior lineman. And Woods, he showed some flash. He showed like he was a top 10 pick in 2024. And the biggest part about why he fell down of all of the was because of how teams had to scheme against him. Like they actually released the ball a lot quicker against Clemson.
Yeah,
That's something that we figured out in media with Peter Woods, but I
and
think that's a
it's
decent pick.
important. Yeah, I'm assuming they're going to attack the edge rush. Other like if they have this pick at 25, I'm assuming they've already got their edge rush figured out. At that point, Peter Woods would be just the cherry on top for this team's edge rush in general.
100%. Well, the Buffalo Bills, they're at number 26. I feel like they still need wide receiver, even with the trade of DJ
Yes.
Moore. They've got to revitalize their receiver group and put Shakir. And, I'm not sure about a border wide receiver or like a wide receiver two or one. I think they could go with their slot receiver here with like Khalil Shakir being better on the edge. But I also don't think you can pass up a Mark Cooper from Indiana here. So I'm
Yeah.
actually going to go after him instead of Casey Conception, which was what I was thinking if the Bills were going to go after like a slot guy. Because Omar Cooper is just still too talented to pass up here. He's so good with the Indiana Hoosiers. He was essentially he saved them in the Penn State game with his
Yeah.
athleticism, and he makes those kind of catches like at any point in the game. So Amari Cooper is my pick there for the Bills.
Well, now we're moved on to the 49ers, and I also think the 49ers are going to need to attack wide receiver specific. I mean, dude, the 49ers actually really need to attack everything, but I think wide receiver is just going to make the most sense here. I don't think you need to go ahead and take CJ Allen at 27 yet. I think you
No,
could let him fall back 10, 15 picks. So I'm taking Casey Conception from A&M at receiver for the 49ers with Brandon Ayuk. Now it seems like he might never play a snap of football again. I think you're going to have to go with the receiver here.
100%. For the Texans, I decent. I think they do might need a defensive tackle because they weren't the best last season, and I could definitely see them getting a D tackle to revitalize that D'Amico Ryan's front, but they also desperately need offensive linemen. It seems like they always just shoot themselves in the foot with these offensive linemen. They trade away Laramie Tunsil this past season, and this season they trade away I forgot his name, but They trade away a key offensive lineman to the Cleveland Browns. I don't know why in the world they keep doing that, but I think they do draft an offensive lineman here at the 20th pick, and they're going to go after Caden Proctor because he has fallen this far. You might as well take advantage of the raw traits that Caden Proctor has. And it's such a Texans thing to draft a raw offensive lineman with a high pick.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Well, we've got Kansas City next. I believe I was the one who took the Kansas City pick the first time,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I had to change it because it was originally Rams, and I think you had I'm not sure who you had over there, but you had
I had him at Jeremiah Love.
yep.
So I think with the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously there is a hole in their defense now. With the trade of McDuffie, I think they're going to have to go for another corner. As for the corners available, we haven't taken Brandon Cease yet, have we?
No, we still haven't taken Brandon Cece. He'd be a good pick.
I think Brandon CC is going to go to Chiefs at 29, personally.
Yeah, that's a decent pick there too. I Colton Hood is a good pick there too, but I think that CC is more of a perimeter corner than Hood, who's more like a slot guy. There we go. With the Broncos, I mean, they didn't really have that many issues on the team. They obviously you could say that they need a draft wide receiver, but they kind it seems like they're fine with just having a bunch of wide receiver twos. They're just gonna have Cortland Sutton be the wide receiver one, and
Yeah.
everybody's just gonna shut up about it. The Broncos do need, I think they do need like a tight end here. And I think this might be the pick where you see like I'd imagine them they can land after like Kenyon Sadiq or even yeah, I'd just say Kenyon Sadiq is probably the pick here for the Broncos.
I think
He's
I had
kind of like a
Sadiq
decent.
already.
You
I
did?
think I
Oh,
had him
you
to
did.
30.
You're right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No worries, man.
So I think in that case they go after linebackers here, and I think this is the pick where we see CJ Allen go off the board here. CJ
Oh,
Allen
yeah.
would definitely fit into
I've
that
actually
Broncos
seen quite
offense.
a bit of people talk about that. So,
And he was originally like a mid-round pick, but he's kind of slid down. I want to see
mhm.
how he does in his pro day, but CJ Allen would be my pick here for the Broncos.
For 31, Patriots, see, a lot of this depends on how they attack their issues in free agency, and I'm talking specifically about wide receiver here. I think
Yep.
the Patriots, obviously, the release of Stephon Diggs implies that they're going to shake things around quite a bit in the wide receiver room. And AJ Brown is expected to either re-sign with the Eagles or sign with the Patriots, or I guess traded. It's not his last year on contract, is it?
No.
So with New England, I'm going to assume they do not land AJ Brown, and I'm going to assume they go receiver here. And if he's still on the board, I have them taking Denzel Boston from Washington.
That's perfect. The guy's name is literally Boston.
Yeah, literally. I think he's still available on our board right now. So I had Denzel Boston.
Well, to round out the draft, I think I had the Seahawks. I was going to originally have them taking Brandon Cece here, but I think the Seahawks go after Colton Hood. They're kind of
Mhm.
just one corner away here. I mean, Nick and Monwari is a great nickel corner, but I think Colton Hood could definitely slide in as another boundary corner alongside. It depends on if Seahawks even sign Tariq Woolen in
Yeah.
this class. I believe he's a free agent this season, but I think that they they'd be better off moving off on from Woolen and getting another boundary guy. And I think Colton Hood can definitely fit that for them. Well, that ends the first Gritz Blitz mock draft. And if we finished off the first round, we'll probably have one closer. We'll probably have another one closer to actual draft season with a couple guest contributors on there. But as for the rest of the NFL, there have been a lot of transactions in advance of the start of the new league year. A lot of releases, such as quarterback Kyler Murray, linebacker Bobby Okereke, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, defensive tackle Jonathan Allen, Darnell Mooney got cut, Jonnu Smith, Logan Wilson, Stephon Diggs, Mekhi Becton, Tyreek Hill, Jimmy Ward, and now you can add in Taylor Decker to this list.
Oh, and Geno Smith.
Yeah, and Geno
Well, it's not
Smith too.
official. It's not official.
I gotcha. Okay, so
Neither is
that's
Tua, so I guess we should avoid adding them. But there is a lot more names that we are 100% expecting to get cut in the next few days or so.
Oh, absolutely. But which one of these was the most surprising to you out of all this group?
Bobby Okereke for me. I could not believe it. A guy who's a team captain on your very young defense at linebacker who's got some good value, and then just kind of came out of nowhere for me. A lot of these other guys, Darnell Mooney, Kyler Murray, Marshawn Lattimore, Jonathan Allen, especially guys on big contracts that maybe aren't producing to the level that you need them to, but Bobby Okereke just caught me off guard.
Yeah, it really did. And he's still a young guy. I mean, and he wasn't signed to a terrible contract. He's still 29 years old.
Right.
And he was the captain of the team. He's like, and that Giants defense, they still had the talent on the team to be very good. They just
Definitely.
struggled
Definitely.
in terms of getting good play from their corners last season, and their edge rusher was a little bit disappointed. But I don't think you could blame that on Bobby Okereke out of all people.
Definitely not.
But
Yeah, that
I
was
think the
surprising.
biggest surprise to me might have been QB Kyler Murray. I think that it's crazy to me that the Cardinals are like in a position where they feel like they can cut Kyler Murray because
Oh yeah. That's a
like
good point.
I understand like I would have understand trading him away to get draft capital and they probably tried doing that, but if you keep him on the team, like you have at least like average to slightly above average quarterback play at worst.
Oh, and you're not guaranteed that,
Or
especially with this draft class. You're not
yeah,
even drafting a quarterback.
the
But
Cardinals' biggest weakness now is one of the biggest weaknesses now for the Cardinals is at quarterback.
yeah,
And
you
so you hope you
destroyed
just
your
like
ability to win.
suck bad enough to the point where you get one of your guys in 2027. And that's not even to say like what if the guys in 2027 don't pan out? You know, like
Yeah,
you never know. You really
you never
never know
know.
in terms of
Never
quarterback
know.
development.
Yeah.
But you had
Yeah,
Kyler
it's
Murray
crazy.
and it's a big contract, but you still like cut him and I don't even know if it was like at a gain for them. I think it might have been at a loss due to how much guaranteed money Kyler Murray had.
Yeah.
Just a weird scenario. My second one on the list was Tyreek Hill. Not playing. It was he was that was probably my first cut candidate, I'd imagine. Taylor Decker was
Definitely.
pretty surprising too from the Lions. But moving on to the franchise tags, only four players got the tag. Atlanta Falcons tagged Kyle Pitts, of course. Cowboys tagged Pickens. The Indianapolis Colts signed the tag Daniel Jones and transition tag, so he's still able to talk with teams. And the Jets tagged Brees Hall. Do you see any of these players getting traded or moving to other teams?
I'm not gonna say I see that happening. I could I could maybe see George Pickens maybe from Dallas just because I
Really?
think not because I think it's gonna happen, but because I think if anyone's gonna do something like that, it's gonna be
Jerry
old man
Jones.
over there in Dallas. So, you know, Jerry Jones just seems like the type of guy to trade George Pickens off a franchise tag, but I don't see that happening to anybody else now. I don't really see it happening to Pickens, to be honest with you. I just know that they've entertained the idea of it.
I could definitely see it happening to Brees Hall, though. I've heard that there are
Interesting.
people that are in on Brees Hall, and especially the Broncos who do need a running back. I think that RJ Harvey was a good pickup for them, but if they got Brees Hall alongside RJ Harvey and like kind of reduced his workload a bit, that could really work out for Denver. I could see Kansas City trying to get on it on Brees Hall unless they draft Jeremiah Love, which I argue think he's probably better than Brees Hall, but.
Yeah.
That'd be the guy that I'd see. I was surprised to see the Colts not tender a tag to Alec Pierce. That was really surprising to me.
Yeah, I
Just
agree
the
with that.
fact.
Agree with that, definitely.
Just like you could have had him on your roster and you could have been the first in line to negotiate an extension with him. Now you're competing with all these other teams and you're going to lose him for nothing if he goes on to another team. I get the wide receiver franchise tag was a little too rich for Pierce, but he's probably going to sign a big deal in the offseason anyway. So why not be first in line to negotiate that with him? I don't know. Also had some major trades go on with Trent McDuffie getting traded to the Rams for the Chiefs for their 29th overall pick, and I believe another mid-round pick, and DJ Moore getting traded to Buffalo along with a fifth round pick in exchange for a second round pick from the Bills. Who do you feel like won both of those trades?
Regarding the McDuffie trade, I really do actually feel like this one worked out for both the teams in favor. I think the Rams are looking to win now. McDuffie can do that. It can extend this window for this team. And for the Chiefs, they need more draft capital. I think they're, a few steps away from being a super team. And I think a good first round pick in general is that. I wouldn't say good first round pick, but so regarding that one, I actually don't really have a winner. As for the Chicago and Buffalo trade, I do think that Chicago kind of walked out of this one with a little bit more capital than expected. If Buffalo decided to wait a year or however much longer is on DJ Moore's contract, DJ Moore's not getting extended through Chicago. They're going
No.
to let him walk. A second round pick, I know that they got a fifth rounder out of it. It makes me feel a little bit better, but a second round pick for DJ Moore, who honestly is playing at a second round pick, maybe playing at a second round pick talent anyways for a receiver, depending on the class. I do kind of feel like Chicago walked out of there with a little bit more than they could have. Although on the other side for Buffalo, DJ Moore's a guy who's been a superstar in the past, and maybe they're seeing a chance of that happening again with Josh Allen throwing to him. But DJ Moore's not enough to beef up this Buffalo receiving room.
They definitely need another guy. But this DJ Moore trade, it kind of gives me parallels to like the Stephon Diggs trade from
Yeah,
Buffalo to Houston. Although it's the interesting part is that like DJ Moore is still very young as a wide receiver.
yeah, it's
He's
true.
it's not like he's going to develop he's going to like develop an extra part of his game, but you don't worry about him really regressing that much like Diggs did in Houston. But I still think Chicago won that trade just because a second round pick for wide receiver when like you see a lot of other wide receivers get traded for scraps. I think that Chicago got a good deal from DJ Moore, a guy that they're probably going to let walk anyway. As for the Trent McDuffie deal, I'm gonna say probably the Rams won that deal. I know the Chiefs got a first round pick out of it, but still, like Trent McDuffie's a really good player, and he completes the
Definitely.
Rams defense. Like he is a really good player. The Rams defense is gonna look so much better next season with him on the team. But it's still an interesting trade candidate, Max Crosby.
Yes,
Who do you see acquiring Max Crosby in the offseason for?
Chicago, 100% Chicago. Been saying that for a little bit. Um, Still believe it. I think Chicago's going to be who ends up with Max Crosby.
It feels like Chicago or bust at this point.
Yeah.
They seem to be the only ones that have like legitimately draft capital to trade for Max Crosby.
Well, I don't know if you saw this, but this morning there was a report that Raiders have apparently received many tempting calls regarding Max Crosby, and they're just still discussing which one is the best for offers. So it does seem like there's still
Really?
some buzz around there, even from Dallas, apparently. Apparently, Dallas still has a lot of buzz, which makes sense because they have two
Dallas was
first
my
round
second
picks.
team, actually. Dallas was the
Yeah.
second team I thought was going to get Max Crosby. And it makes a lot of sense. Jerry Jones always loves acquiring star talent for like a lot of draft capital. He did that with Amari Cooper a couple of years ago. They trade away a first round pick for Amari Cooper in 2018. And they did that with George Pickens last season. They did that with Quinnen Williams too. They're going to give up
Hmm.
their first round pick next year for that. So I could definitely see them trying to get Max Crosby in
Yeah.
exchange for maybe that 20th pick that they hold for the Packers. But the last question of the day, who do you see being the most aggressive team in free agency? Who do you think is going to sign? Who do you think is going to try signing like the most amount of impact talent?
I have Dallas for this one, actually. After the restructuring of Dak's contract, and soon to be, apparently, they're looking at restructuring CD's contract, it really does seem like Dallas is looking for a complete 180-degree turnaround from last season and trying to compete to win the division, possibly win the conference. And it really seems like they're trying to do it quickly. I don't think that means that it's going to work, but there's a reason why they're restructuring all these contracts, even though they're in cap hell. And they're the number one, leading spot for Max Crosby, or number two. And then on top of that, they're leading on Tyler Algier, leading on Kenneth Walker. All of these players, the Cowboys have buzz around all of them. So to me, I see Dallas being the most aggressive, without a doubt.
That is interesting. I think Dallas probably makes like one big move, but I think I'm going to go Tennessee Titans here actually. They have a really high amount of cap space right now, I think 89 million in cap space, and I think that they're going to really try to beef up this defense for Robert Saleh. There are a good amount of free agents available in terms of like edge rushing talent and cornerback talent, and Tennessee could definitely. I'd imagine they They could like maybe look at Kenneth Walker as a potential signing too from
Yeah,
Seattle.
definitely,
Uh,
definitely.
but Tennessee, they have so much capital and they have Cam Ward already, and he is their franchise guy. Like he is gonna be a good quarterback
Yeah,
as long as you give him like some sort of insulation and some weapons and a defense to work with. There's literally nothing else around him. So Tennessee's definitely gonna bulk up to try to be much better next year. But as we close off the episode, very big episode here, what is your biggest winners and losers of this week specifically?
winner for me has to be Alec Pierce, who is now looking at being possibly the best wide receiver in the market, which is kind of crazy. He's had a very quiet last few years, but really kind of stood out this season as a fantastic receiver in Indianapolis. As for my loser, I've got Aaron Glenn, who I don't know if you saw the video, but was falling asleep at the combine.
That was really
It was
funny.
on TV.
That was really, really funny.
Yeah.
Considering that I think it was David Bailey that was coming up for Aaron Glenn to
Yeah.
watch.
I mean, dude, I know there's a lot of flying, but come on, man.
That is
This is your
hilarious.
job.
How in the world did he not like catch? The Jets aren't that far from Indianapolis, so I don't know how in the world did you have jet lag during it? What happened there?
Yeah. Well, they're the Jets. They're always jet lagged.
Yeah, yeah, but I think my winner is this week is going to be this is kind of going out of bounds, but any seller at the NHL trade deadline. As I mentioned, like briefly in the beginning of the show, the NHL trade deadline just happened, and it was a seller's paradise, dude. Like we saw fourth liners get traded for second round picks. We
Yeah.
saw a third liner get traded for a first round pick. A couple like absolutely insane deals for these seller teams. The St. Louis Blues in particular got multiple first round picks from teams just because they wanted, and they almost got like more than that. Like they were trying to do a Colton Parayko to Buffalo. Unfortunately, he did not waive his no movement clause, but they would have gotten a great return from that. But my loser for this week is going to be the Arizona Cardinals, just because of the Kyler Murray situation. What are they going to do at quarterback next year? I definitely I have no idea, and like I don't know how in the world like you can even try developing Marvin Harrison with what they're going to have
Yeah.
at quarterback next year. So I think the Cardinals are my biggest loser. But that's going to end our episode today. Pretty bloated show with Tre'Shon coming on the podcast. That's Tre'Shon Diaz. Be sure to follow his content on Falcons SI. That's SI.com. We look at the Atlanta Falcons. He's also a contributor on the Falcoholic alongside Kevin Knight, who hosts that show. As for us, be sure to follow us on social media. Be sure to follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. Be sure to listen to past episodes too. We touched on the offense and the defense for the Falcons. Be sure to follow my social medias. Make sure to follow Tackles and Checks. I'll release a video someday. That will happen. And my Instagram at Owen C. Hillman. Be sure to follow my brother's Instagram at totally not Grant Hillman. But that is the end of our show. And rise up, man.
Rise up.